Hello Reddit readers! Today, we have people's opinions about the 2025 project on the timeline. I will not detain you anymore. Like and subscribe to the channel of pleasant viewing. Story 1 from user Dax dislikes you. Yeah, it kind of sucks. In addition to completely dismantling the administrative state and replacing all of the dedicated public workers in the federal government with loyal MAGA stooges. It contains the following. It says that kids must grow up in an environment with a mother and father that are married. Talks about banning non-married and non-heterosexual couples from adopting compares, transgender people to groomers, pedophiles, pornography. Talks about getting rid of discrimination laws, getting rid of multiple government organizations, such as the FDA, banning abortion with no exceptions nationwide, and more at it. Because I'm getting a good amount of comments saying, oh, this is a great thing. I looked further into it, and here are some specifics. Project 2025 attempts to place a complete ban on gay marriage. Attempts to place a complete ban on divorce. No matter the situation. Attempts to place a complete ban on anything deemed pornographic, including anything sexually explicit, including drawings or literature that doesn't involve real people. Anything involving gay people in media. Even if it is as simple as a documentary or something, mentioning that it is possible for two men to be in a relationship, heavily limit the abilities of the FDA, CDC, and OSHA, including making it even harder to get medicine, making it even more expensive to get medicine, making it even more difficult and expensive to get disability aids, getting rid or greatly diminishing many workplace safety laws, lowering the age of legal work cutting, back on child labor laws, ban abortion, even in cases of missed or silent miscarriages, which is when the fetus dies, but is not expelled from the body. Naturally, according to Project 2025, extracting an already dead fetus from a mother's uterus is still considered murder. Leaving the dead fetus inside of the womb can result in infections such as sepsis, ectopic pregnancies, which are when a fetus forms outside the uterus. It is not possible for the fetus to survive an ectopic pregnancy. It is impossible to give birth to the fetus since it isn't in the womb. And it being outside the womb means it can only grow so much before it either miscarries or the mother is gravely injured. The fetus rarely makes it past the first trimester and never makes it to the third. It is currently impossible to implant the fetus into the womb. Ectopic pregnancies can cause severe damage to the mother. It can cause the fallopian tube to burst open, which results in internal bleeding, possible sepsis, possible infertility, and often death. Fetal abnormalities with modern technology. We can use ultrasounds to tell if the fetus has or will have abnormalities. Even in cases of fetal abnormalities, many of which are fatal to the fetus. Baby Project 2025 wishes to ban abortion. Examples of fetal abnormalities include acrania, where the fetus's skull does not fully develop, and the baby is born without the top of the skull, revealing the brain. If the baby isn't stillborn, it will live between a few hours and about a week, and it will be in pain its entire life. There is no way to save it. Body stalk anomaly, where the abdominal wall is defective or non-existent, so the organs form outside the body during fetus development. It is always fatal. It should be noted that it is similar to omphalously, exomphalos, or gastroschisis, which are visually similar intestines outside of the body, but have much higher survival rates since the abdominal wall can be repaired in those cases. If you need to register to vote. Story 2 from user Grammar Oligarch. I think most Americans don't understand how government works. They think everything is political in government. Any regulation is viewed as overstepping. Any tax is an inconvenience. They paint it all in oversimplified views about being screwed over because things in their own life are not as good as they'd like it to be. And why not? Government is a convenient scapegoat. If it weren't for the nanny state, all one's dreams would become reality. However, federal regulatory bodies and federal research institutions developed out of necessity, not greed. OSHA is needed because of how dangerous work became in the late 19th and early 20th century. Without government oversight and legal regulation, your boss could cut corners on safety and endanger your life. Because historically they did. That needs to be an independent agency. and it requires support from a Department of Labor. Nonpartisan support. The EPA needs to be nonpartisan. Historically, non-regulation of the environment led to putting communities at risk, lead poisoning carcinogenic agents in water supplies, dangerous air. There needs to be nonpartisan scientists helping enforce safety standards for the public good. Otherwise, your only recourse against a private company who dumped poison into your water would be a civil suit after you were injured. So your cancer-ridden family could spend years filing lawsuits against a multi-billion-dollar organization in the hopes that your family lawyer could outspend them without an impartial EPA. Your health is at risk. I could give hundreds of examples. Our quality of life and personal safety depends on systems that are indifferent to political whims. This eliminates that system. It is a literal threat to your health and well-being. To my health and well-being, a directive that fetishizes the 18th century and ignores everything that happened in the 19th and 20th century to get us to where we are today. It's the byproduct of failed scholars. 2. The Heritage Foundation is not a collective of renegade thinkers acting independently of a biased intellectual elite. It's a group of morons who couldn't get their half-baked theories legitimized in a genuine scholarly environment. Because, peer review is a tough nut to crack when your theories are badly designed. I'm going to be frank about how I feel about Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, and far-right intellectuals. These are spoiled boys who couldn't hack it in the legal and academic world, so now they're having a little pissy-hissy fit and manipulating evangelical and corrupt business leaders to make their theories a reality. This is the plan from that dumbass kid who always said his C on his history essay was because the teacher didn't like him, when the reality is his history essay was poorly developed and badly researched. Our democracy is about to be dismantled by idiots who think they are intelligent. Story 3 from user Monday1. Okay, so I scoured their 922-page mandate link for things that interest me. One that interests me the most is their position on LGBTQ rights. Obviously, it's not a positive position. No surprise there. However, one claim in the document was worrying. Page 481, social science reports that assess the objective outcomes for children raised in homes. Aside from a heterosexual intact marriage, are clear. All other family forms involve higher levels of instability. The average length of same-sex marriages is half that of heterosexual marriages. Financial stress or poverty, and poor behavioral, psychological, or educational outcomes. This is simply wrong, and no sources are cited. I quickly searched for studies on Google Scholar and found several that claim the difference is negligible. Some studies, for example, most of the family outcomes are similar between sexual minority and heterosexual families. And sexual minority families have even better outcomes in some domains. Relevant social risk factors of poor family outcomes included stigma and discrimination, poor social support, and marital status. I wonder why children with female same-sex parents and different-sex parents demonstrated no differences in outcomes, despite female same-sex parents reporting more parenting stress. No differences were observed between household types, on family relationships, or any child outcomes. These investigations found that children reared in female, same-sex parent families were comparable in well-being and problem behavior to those reared in heterosexual parent households. Children adopted by same-sex couples are confronted with unique and additional developmental tasks related to the intersection of their adoptive and minority statuses. This may sound negative, but it is because people still discriminate against minority families, and this project will not make it better. Administrative data from 2 states shows that same-sex couples end their marriages at a rate of 11 annually on average, and an average of 16 of couples dissolve their legal relationships. If a broader set of states is included, this rate is slightly lower than the annual rate of divorce among married different-sex couples. This has been slightly corrected. It's now more or less the same as straight couples. His list could go on. Many here already know this. This comment is already long enough. I just wanted to show that this document is just ideology. Same sex. Marriage is legal here in Germany, and there are no issues because of it. No one lost any rights, no children have been abused, and no other horror scenarios have happened. God didn't strike us either as far as I know, and that's true in many other countries where it's legal and the US is no exception. It's true that same-sex couples do face problems in reality, but it's not because of the nature of their relationship, it's because of politics. Like, these call me naive, but I just can't understand how people can be in favor of this. Regardless of this document, many are still in favor of anti-LGBTQ legislation, which is bad. So to answer the question, I am worried even as a non-US citizen, it might swap over to Europe or already does. Sorry for this rage. Story 4, from user Sister Stiffer. Project 2025 is a political revolution intended to create an aristocratic corpo playground with near slavery. Removal of almost the entirety of the administrative state will also remove nearly all regulations, including workplace safety and food standards. You'll be working for pennies, eating garbage, and you'll be happy about it, because you'll be saved. Religion will be enforced, Christianity, and it will be taught in school. There will not be religious toleration of any non-compliant, tolerant form of Christianity. Religion is their answer to how to pay you as little as possible, force you into the worst conditions possible, and maintain your compliance without enacting literal slavery. They do want a kind of freedom, but that freedom will be a social Darwinistic freedom, allowing only the best, brightest, most talented, ruthless, cunning, dedicated, etc. to move to the top. This is how they solve the old problem of aristocracy. A stagnant aristocracy produces poor rulers over time, as inherited aristocracy necessarily produces bad apples that are not fit to be part of the aristocracy. This turns the aristocracy into a meritocracy. The kind of merit they seek will be Machiavellian effectiveness. In order to implement the revolution, the following will occur. Power will be devolved to local sheriffs who will enforce the Constitution as they see fit. According to the needs of the corporaling class, they have already been trained to do so. Initially, implementing 2025 won't be possible with the military, as America is simply too large, and our military is designed to win quickly. Not to hold and enforce law, this creates a need for local law enforcement. But as it stands, local law enforcement is severely outnumbered and incapable of holding even with the militarization of the police that has already occurred via military surplus. That's why the sheriffs have been trained to raise posses. And those posses will be composed of believers in the system and will be rewarded for their belief with higher status. The posses will initially be armed with the assault rifles they already own, and now they will equip bump stocks. Full auto ARs will of course be legalized quickly, but at the outset, the bump stocks will be critical. Don't kid yourself, every nut with an AR who didn't already have one, or enabled full auto already. It's easy to do at home, is creating bump stocks. Now they are trying to return to something similar to the Shire Reeves of England. It's where we get the term sheriffs will serve as the intermediary between the government and the people, acting as both representatives of the people and enforcers of the federal state law. This won't be like Nazi Germany or fascist Italy, Spain. It's going to be brutal at first, and then it will be like the East India Company, but you'll learn to love Jesus, and that will set you free. Buckle up, buy a gun, or get out. Now, this is it. Story 5, from user Arrowhead DZ. There are some of the Reformation goals that make just enough sense to give it a veneer on non-ridiculousness. But you have to look a little closer and really look at the big picture, and you begin to see the serious threat this poses. We need some bureaucracy. We need the DMV to stay the same from governor to governor. Companies often have to make long-term investments on things like buildings. And we need to know that building codes won't change each administration. We need to know that the tax treatment on investing in a factory can't simply be changed by the whims of the new president. We need a stable government that is predictable and evolves very slowly. I don't want to put my money into an IRA. Now, if the next president can just arbitrarily change how IRAs work next year, all those things I just described provide economic stability to families and businesses. And yet all those things I just described are what conservatives call the deep state. The new conservative movement dictates that when you elect a governor or president, you are voting for that person's beliefs and religion to become the official state policy. We're already seeing this in FLOK and TEX in particular. That's what Project 20, complete dismantling of the norms by which our government operates, and replaces it with a president or governor that, while elected, is the ruler of the people and not just the head of the executive branch. That means tax incentives and business licenses will be doled out by the president or governor in return for fealty, in return for a promise of loyalty to his beliefs. I don't really want to create a new tax code every 4 years. I don't really want to have to take a different driver's test every time the governor switches. But that's Project 2025. It is a complete dismantling of the institutions that stabilize government. It eliminates career managers in every agency and replaces the entire middle management layer that have never before been political appointees, and makes these jobs available to anyone willing to go through the Project 2025 indoctrination program and pledge loyalty to conservative politics. I'm not making that up. You can sign up to enter the program right on their website right now. The whole thing is a catastrophe. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and write comments. See you later.